I would absolutely welcome a similar pronouncement of protest in our nation's capital by truckers and anyone who wants their freedoms back. People are fed up with these overbearing, overburdening regulations that are not based in science.
Louis, could this potentially spread to America's nation's capital?
I mean, anything's possible. Again, we've been having meetings with high-ranking DOT officials. I think on the American side, they're looking for something to do so it doesn't happen. Again, it's pretty simple. Do away with the mandates is what we've told them. Start listening to stuff to help truckers instead of hurt truckers and overregulate truckers. Again, if it does happen, I caution that when we see these things that gain national attention, these kind of things, unfortunately, people who like to create chaos and problems get involved sometimes that have nothing to do with the organism or what's trying to happen or go on. So that's one thing I caution against and worry about. But, you know, if they want to peacefully protest, that's their right to do it. But we need follow through. People need to follow through. The government needs to follow through with some of the promises they made. But, you know, like I said, it's pretty simple. Do away with the mandate. Okay. That's what they're asking for.
So Canada, Ottawa did do away with the mandates. And what he was saying there, that was Louis Pugh. He's in charge of, he heads up a union in Canada. And he was saying there's interlopers. There are people who are interfering. There are people who aren't truckers that are joining this protest. And we have to be on the, on the lookout for people that want to glom on to what we were doing, so that they could do what they wanted to do, which was sow doubt in democracy. In Canada, no less. In Canada. And the first voice you heard was a Republican member of our House of Representatives from Texas telling you, oh, I would welcome more chaos. Whatever happened to America First? You can't put America first when it's chaotic, okay? You can't. But they're not for America First. They're for chaos. They're for a culture war and chaos and violence and a strong man who can then swoop on in and fix it. I alone can fix it. This is really twisted, but this is really, this is what every autocrat in the world would love to see happen to the United States of America. It's what Vladimir Putin goes to sleep at night, touching himself, thinking about, is destroying not just democracies around him, like Ukraine or Estonia or Montenegro. No, not the little ones. He actually decides that he's going to pleasure himself thinking about destroying the greatest democracy on this planet, the United States of America. And how in the world could he do that? Well, if he creates this chaotic environment in Russia, in Ukraine, in Europe generally, and the price per barrel is priced because it's pricing in Russia's warmongering. He hasn't even fired a shot, and gas goes, and the oil per barrel price goes to, well, what is it now? Like $95, $94? Goes to over $100. He makes money. Okay, he makes money. Also, he just might talk Ukrainians out of supporting their democratic government there, and he'll get to run somebody loyal to him to head up the government next door. But he can also do it here, too, with a friendly autocrat. He can also do it here, too. He can destroy us with his propaganda and his troll farms and his Facebooking and his Twitters and the whole 9 yards. And then, on top of it, gets to install the guy who comes riding in to say, I alone can fix it. Vlad's a great guy, why would he interfere in the United States? Why would he? I don't know why he would. He said he didn't, and he said it very strongly. And so I don't see why he would. This is a very strange time we live in. The curse, the Chinese curse is may you live in interesting times. Well, we live in interesting times. And, frankly, this isn't the kind of interest I want in the United States. I'm not interested in, other people's fantasies for an autocratic government being propped up and running in the United States. I'm just not. But the Canadian protesters weren't just truckers. They were white supremacists. There were Nazi swastikas on Canadian flags of all things. These were literally interlopers. These were people who did not wish either Canadians or the United States well. These were people that wanted to upend trade. The Canadian auto industry and the United States auto industry is like one, okay? We are like one body now. We are, symbiotic. We have a working relationship that goes both ways, right? We make the parts, we send, I don't even know how many times an automobile has to go over the border between the United States and Canada before it's a car, I mean, there's so many different things that happen, and they get trucked back and forth and back and forth. And the idea that we don't have any cars on our lot when this is what people want to spend their newfound money on, people would, and our economy is actually good. Our economy is really good. We have supply shortages. So what does the right wing bank on? What do they bet on? What do they root for? More supply disruptions. It's crazy. They're literally rooting against the United States. They're rooting against auto workers. They're rooting against consumers. They're rooting against, ordinary Americans who, got a little bit of money. We got a little bit of, rescue money and checks and child tax credits and things like that. Most Americans have a little cushion now, a little bit. And they would like to either replace their old clunker of a car, but they can't even do that because the price of a used car is through the roof. Why? Because there are no new cars to buy. And why aren't there new cars to buy? Well, it started out with a chip shortage, right? Well, that's why Biden said, we're going to make it here. We're going to make chips here. We're going to make steel here. We're going to use our own steel. We're going to use our own factories. We're going to be, completely independent. And somehow this has got the right wing rooting against Joe Biden. Why would you root against someone that's actually putting America first? It makes no sense unless the end game is something really ugly, like a mafia state. It makes no sense. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. I saw this little interview over the weekend. This is an internet ethicist. Yes, there is such a thing. His name is Tristan Harris. And he's trying to explain to anybody who will listen that corporations have a vested interest in a civil war.
People need to understand these technology companies are not neutral. They're not just a mirror that's showing you what's in your society. It's a funhouse mirror. Remember walking up to a funhouse mirror in a carnival where instead of showing you that you're fat or you're skinny, it wants to show you whatever would keep you in front of that mirror. And so if it shows you the most outrageous things that the other tribe did, that why we should go kill them. I mean, right now, I'm really worried. My deepest concern is that this is like a civil war for profit business model, because right now you get paid and more likes, more followers, and more attention and more reach, the more you say negative things about your fellow countrymen and women, and the more you pile onto partisanship in a way that really, I think, drives up conflict. And that's why this is of interest to every single person, every single American, every single person in a democracy, because a division for profit business model does not make that democracy competitive. And especially if you zoom out and look at this global competition of systems, is the China digital authoritarian system going to win on the world stage, or is democracy going to win on the world stage? Well, right now, a division for profit, brain implant that you put into the brain of your US democracy, once you do that, your democracy is not going to be able to compete. And that's exactly what we're seeing.
That is what autocratic nations, communist countries like China is totally communist, okay? And Russia is a mafia state. It's an oligarchy. It's a kleptocracy, really. I mean, these are kind of euphemisms for a mafia state where the capo de capo is Vladimir Putin, and all the oligarchs are, the five families, the heads of the five families, right? And they're all running their games against their own people, shaking their people down, making their people pay them to keep the peace, right? You have to pay for that. And then they kick up to the capo de capo, right? And if they don't, they disappear too. So we've got these three systems competing, two autocracies, one's communist, the other one's a mafia state, competing, for our attention on the internet with troll farms and disinformation and misinformation and all this, to the point where China has social scores for their citizens that determine whether or not they can work, where they can live, I think our way is better, with all its warts and all its flaws. But we have to fight for it. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.